The box was empty. That much I knew because no one had ever seen me open it, not one single time. It was one of those boxes that seemed to have always been there, passed down from my grandmother to my mother, and now to me. Inside was a velvet pouch. I never looked inside. I didn't want to know what was inside, but my mom, she would sneak a peek every now and then, and one day I came home to find her in tears. "Mom, what's wrong?" I asked, setting my things down. She quickly wiped her eyes, but not before I'd seen them glistening with unshed tears. "Nothing," she said, her voice hoarse. "Just a headache." I wasn't convinced, but I let it go. A few days later, though, I found her again by the old cedar chest, whispering to herself. Why? Why did she leave this for me? The velvet pouch lay open in her lap, and I finally got my first glimpse of what had been hidden away all those years. Inside the pouch was a ring. Not just any ring, though. No, this ring was special. It shimmered with an otherworldly glow. Moonlight, they called it. My mom told me stories about it, about how it was passed down through generations of women in our family, a silent heirloom with a secret legacy. It was said to glow when the moon was full and to whisper secrets only the wearer could hear. Secrets of the past, long-dead relatives who walked among us. I couldn't see nor hear anything yet. The ring felt cold to the touch and looked just like any other antique piece of jewelry. Beautiful, sure, but just a little creepy. It wasn't until that very night, lying in bed with the ring clutched in my hand, that I saw it glow. At first, it was barely visible, a faint glimmer under the moonlight streaming in through my window. But as the seconds ticked by, the glow intensified. Soon, the entire ring was ablaze with light. And then it started to spin, faster and faster until it was nothing but a blur. When it finally stopped, I blinked, rubbing my eyes, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. In the center of the ring, where there had only been a stone before, was a tiny, perfectly formed moon. It pulsed with a soft inner light, bathing my fingers in its glow. As I stared at it in wonder, a voice echoed in my mind, a voice that seemed to belong to no one in particular, and yet everyone at the same time. A chorus of whispers, memories, moments frozen in time. All of a sudden, I was no longer in my bedroom. I was somewhere else, somewhere far away. The air was thick with the scent of pine and wood smoke, and the sound of waves crashing on the shore filled my ears. I was standing in a clearing, surrounded by ancient trees, their branches gnarled and twisted like the limbs of some giant beast. Before me lay a path, barely visible between the undergrowth. I took a step forward and then another, drawn inexorably toward the trees. As I walked, images flashed through my mind, fragmented and incomplete, yet vivid enough to stir emotions within me that I didn't know I possessed. There was a woman, her face obscured by the shadows of a wide-brimmed hat, walking along the very same path, her hand resting on the belly of what I assumed was her child. There was a man with kind eyes and a gentle smile, chopping wood by a campfire. And there was laughter, the tinkling of a child's voice echoing through the trees. But then the tone shifted and the images became darker. The woman was crying, her face pale and drawn. The man was shouting, his words like stones being hurled. And the child was nowhere to be seen. Then, as quickly as it began, it ended. The clearing vanished. The trees disappeared. I was back in my room, the moon ring heavy on my finger. My heart pounded in my chest and I struggled to catch my breath. What had I just experienced? Was it real or a figment of my imagination? And then I noticed something strange. As I looked down at the ring, the moon in its center seemed to wink at me. It was barely perceptible, like a trick of the light. And yet I knew, somehow I just knew that it was the ring, the moonlight itself, winking at me. It wanted me to know two things. One, that it was real, not a dream. And two, that it was lonely. So I did the only thing I could think of. I put the ring back in its box, wrapped it in the velvet pouch, and carried it to my windowsill. There, under the watchful gaze of the full moon, I placed the box, leaving it open, a silent offering to the spirits of the night. Maybe, just maybe, they would find peace now. If you enjoyed this story, follow for more quiet magic.